Hi, Jess. One of the things I love about our friendship is that we are both huge nerds. Whether it's Star Wars, Harry Potter, Marvel, Aragon, or Percy Jackson, we love a lot of great stuff, and we've had some super fun times sharing those things with each other. Remember our super long phone conversation in high school about the last Harry Potter book? Or as you called it, Harry Potter and the Prolonged Camping Trip. Or remember the time that we moaned together over how sad the end of the third Aragon book was? Now, I personally love being a huge nerd about all of these things, but I have to admit that there is one downside, at least, to being a nerd. And that downside is this. Some people just can't handle how excited we get about the stuff we love. Those people might say things like, chill out, or calm down about that stuff, or grow up a little, or do you really need that many books? Have you ever felt looked down on or felt ashamed because you showed enthusiasm for the stuff you love? I haven't experienced that very much myself, but I do have a lot to say about it. Jess, I know that this is supposed to be a video letter to you, but you're already such a proud nerd that I'm going to turn this whole video into a letter to you and the whole human race. Sound good? Let's do it. In this essay, I would like to present my arguments that nerdy enthusiasm is not mutually exclusive from adulthood or popularity, and that it can add vibrance and a sense of community to anyone's life. First and foremost, being a nerd is not childish. Somewhere in this life, we humans got the idea that liking certain things and getting excited about them is kid stuff. But have you noticed that it's only certain things? It makes no sense. For example, if a bunch of guys want to sit around a TV or a field with paint on their faces and athlete costumes on and yell and dance and scream about the trajectory of some kind of ball, that's fine, and that's something normal adults do. But for some reason, that's way more acceptable to people than some nerd dressing up as a Twi'lek or a Weeping Angel to go to Comic-Con. What gives? And the worst part is, our impressionable teenagers got that message and never let it go. They all think that getting excited about something, even if it's something you love, is babyish and shows that you're not grown up, which is something that they all desire to be. It was like this when we were in high school, probably before that, and since my husband's a teacher, I know that it is still that way. It's quite tragic, really. Then, when you get to college, you realize that you didn't need to be so tightly wound, and that everyone loves theme days and Disney sing-alongs just as much as you do. The best part is when the professors get involved. I once sat in on a lecture that was full of Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings references, and it was spectacular. And if you're still not convinced by me, allow me to present you with a quote by a truly learned man who is well respected by most everyone in my community. Critics who treat adult as a term of approval instead of as a merely descriptive term cannot be adult themselves. To be concerned about being grown up, to admire the grown-up because it is grown-up, to blush at the suspicion of being childish, these things are the marks of childhood and adolescence. When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childishness and the desire to be very grown up. That, my friends, is a quote from C.S. Lewis, and it's from a book called Of Other Worlds, Essays and Stories. Yes, this is Rainbow Dash from My Little Pony, and I think her presence here only proves my point. If you read the full section, it also includes this statement. When I was 10, I read fairy tales in secret and would have been ashamed if I had been found doing so. Now that I am 50, I read them openly. So you see, the self-acceptance that is required to show your true nerdy self to the world does not show a reluctance to grow up, but instead is a sign that you have matured and grown as a human in this world. Now, whether that enthusiasm is cool or popular is a whole other story, which brings me to my next point. Being a nerd has actually become way more mainstream than ever. Jess, do you remember when we were in high school and you introduced me to the sitcom The Big Bang Theory? If you haven't seen the show, it's all about a group of guys who are huge nerds and all the hijinks they get into. These guys love a lot of things, including Star Trek and Star Wars, and they get really mad if you mix those things up. This year, Aaron and I finally finished watching every episode, which was a lot considering that there were 12 seasons. That's a huge success in the sitcom world. We had a great time watching it, but after a while, we did notice something interesting. The premise of the show surrounds a group of guys who are super nerdy, which in TV world means that they have a stereotypical lack of social skills and popularity, especially with women. As the show goes on, most of them do find girlfriends and then wives. Ooh, sorry, Raj. And they do grow as characters a little bit, but they keep insisting on this social outcast dynamic. That idea may have rung more true 12 years ago, but as we were watching it in the year of our Lord 2020, that idea started to feel a little stale, if not totally false. For example, in the show, they all love comic books and get super excited for any superhero movies that come out. Enter the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is mentioned a little bit in the show. You know the MCU. You've got Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Black Widow, and all those popular movies. Those movies which tons of people around the world went to see, which all culminated in Avengers Endgame, arguably the highest grossing movie of all time. Does that still sound like a niche or unpopular fandom to you? I'd argue that this phenomenon has also happened with the Star Wars fandom, especially with the release of the show The Mandalorian. Even if you haven't seen the show and you have no idea what's going on there, I'm willing to bet that somewhere, sometime in the past 2 years, you have seen this adorable face. Come on, you can admit it. We all know it's true. And I feel like something else happened in the Star Wars franchise that made it super popular with the kids recently. What was that? Oh yeah, we got a whole new trilogy of movies, which were all complete masterpieces and not at all the subject of numerous ranty conversations in our kitchen. I guess here I have to level with you and say that there is a bit of a dark side to being a nerd. In the hands of some people, that awesome nerdy enthusiasm can pretty quickly turn into hate and derision. You know what they say, no one hates on Star Wars quite like Star Wars fans. Aaron and I may have some critiques of the new movies, but we still enjoyed watching them. On the other hand, there are some people out there who just think that after like the first 2 movies, the whole franchise just went downhill. And we certainly don't agree with that. Aaron and I are much more about positivity, and that's why we started a whole podcast about it. It's called AP Approved, and we present largely positive reviews of the shows and movies we love. I'll put a link down below in case you're interested in checking it out. I should tell you that one more side of nerd culture that sometimes rears its ugly head is gatekeeping. Certain people out there want to feel special because of their knowledge and commitment to their fandom, so they use their nerdiness to put other people down. These are the people who point out and belittle anyone who identifies as a nerd, but maybe just watched the movies or is just getting into it, which is not okay at all. And I'm sorry, I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but I just have to say it. The worst offenders are men who try to keep women out of their nerdy communities. There are still people out there perpetuating the idea that girls cannot be nerds and they should just go back to whatever girls are supposed to like. But to those people I say, we can be nerds and we can be good at it. And here I'd like to point out that there is another great reason why it's so awesome to be a nerd right now, and it's that all of our favorite stories are getting way more diversity and representation than ever before. Except for Star Trek. They've always been ahead of their time. Ahead of their time. Is there a joke in there somewhere? I don't know. I don't actually know Star Trek that well. But that doesn't mean I can't appreciate it. In the past few years, so many great characters have been created who are female or people of color or some other minority. And a lot of great characters have been moved to the forefront of public consciousness that never got the attention they deserved before. And it's nowhere near close to equality yet. We've got a long way to go. But minority directors and writers are getting a lot more attention and well-deserved accolades than they've been getting before. This is all great stuff, but I haven't even gotten to the best part. Finally, I would like to say right here and right now that being a nerd is just way more fun than actively choosing not to be one. We have a poster up on our wall. It's this one right here with a quote from the author John Green, who's this guy right here. You've probably seen it in my other videos because it's always right there behind me. I love this quote so much, and it really inspired this whole video. It comes from one of John's videos where he talks about Harry Potter fans, and I think here he successfully described the true essence of what being a nerd is all about. And now I'd like to read it to you guys. Nerds like us are allowed to be unironically enthusiastic about stuff. Nerds are allowed to love stuff, like jump up and down in your chair, can't control yourself, love it. When people call people nerds, mostly what they're saying is, you like stuff, which is not a good insult at all. Like, you are too enthusiastic about the miracle of human consciousness. Isn't that just beautiful? I'm such a John Green nerd. This explains so much about why being called a nerd really isn't that bad. It just means that you get so excited about the things that you love that you just can't keep it to yourself. And why should you? Being a nerd, especially with other people, is so much fun. Being a nerd may mean you decide to puff paint t-shirts with your friends to go see the last Harry Potter movie together. And on that note, going to movie premieres is so much fun, especially when you get a big group of friends together to go see this movie you've been waiting to see for so long. And you go to see the premiere at midnight and you get to wait in line with so many other fans, and one of your friends has a gigantic purse full of snacks. Sounds pretty fun, right? And I just want to let you know, just in case you are a more reserved person and you just don't feel like getting that crazy, that's fine. Being a nerd doesn't always mean going all out. Sometimes being a nerd just means that when you get off your evening shift at the Rainbow Grill, you bring over one of your Star Wars DVDs to your best friend's house and you watch it in her parents' basement late at night because she hasn't seen the Star Wars movies yet, and that must be fixed. Thanks, Jess. I owe you one. In conclusion, being called a nerd is a terrible insult because it could easily mean that you are a mature, cool, and super fun person. Being a nerd is also one of the easiest ways that I have found to make friends, because once you find a shared interest, there's no limit to the things you can talk about. I mean it, the limit does not exist. So, with that in mind, do not, under any circumstances, let anyone make you feel ashamed or uncool for just loving what you love. That person probably either doesn't have a thing that they love that much, or they're still afraid to share their excitement with the world. Either way, that's actually pretty sad. Maybe you can help them find their thing, and then you could be nerds together. Take it from me, nerds can make great friends and great humans, and the world would be a dreary place indeed without them. Thank you so much for listening, whether you've watched all of my videos or just this one. It really means a lot to me because this is something I love to do, and I hope at least some of what I've said is meaningful to you too. Jess, thank you so much for having the idea for us to make videos together. It really awakened a whole lot of passion and creativity in me. I love you so, so much, and I will see you later. To all the rest of you, have a great day, and as they say in Nerdviteria, don't forget to be awesome.